23 meeting is in session. All right, we'll start off here with introductions. We have some people on Zoom. Kim, are you there? Kim, would you like to introduce yourself?
He wrote in the text, he's here.
Oh, okay.
You may not have the ability.
And then, and Michael Pika,
Good afternoon, everybody.
good to see you. Thank you very much. Is that all we have on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, and we have a gallery over here.
Harry Bartlett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bartlett. And you want to start at that end and work this way?
John Giantonio, Deputy Director, Office of Tourism.
Or BE Director of Marketing?
Aaron Cummins. Jeff Flatman.
Juliet Mosconi, City of Palm Bay.
Peter Cranis with the Office of Tourism.
And William Young, City of Melbourne.
Deborah Webster, Tourist Development Office.
Bonnie King.
Stephen Heron. Tawana Brooke, Office of Tourism. Angela Essing, Office of Tourism.
Okay, and did you want to do the official introduction?
Oh, yeah, well, I just, for those of you that maybe didn't meet Laura, before you walked in, Laura is new to our organization, so she's been here a little less than 2 weeks, so heading our marketing department, so we're excited to have her here, and, sitting in for today. Where did I see that? Was it in the paper? It was in a places, yeah. Can you read my newsletter? It wasn't there, Peter. No, it was. It was on the front page. I think it was. That's exactly where I actually get it. I'm glad to hear somebody reads it.
Yeah.
Okay, you got me for a couple more.
Can I make a motion that we allow Kim Wilson to be able to vote
Yes,
via the
thank
phone?
you. Motion Bonnie King.
Second.
Tim Plathman, all those in favor of allowing Kim Wilson to vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Kim is allowed to vote. Thank you very much. All right, members, may request to disclose any conflicts of interest with agenda items and in or any business relationships between the board. Any disclosures? No? We'll move on to the agenda. Oh, may I have an approval of the agenda, please? I'm sorry, motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second. I'll second that.
Motion Aaron Collins, second Bonnie King. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. All right, we will now move on with the approval of the culture committee minutes. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion we approve the minutes as written.
Motion Heron,
Second.
second Plathman. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. We will now hear from Michael Peacock.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all again. I'm glad we can reconvene and meet again. It's exciting. Those of you who, I think everybody knows who I am, but Michael Peacock, I'm chairman of the BCA. Just wanted to give you a quick update. For those of you who don't know, the board has decided to look for a new executive director. So we have formed a search committee to look for a new executive director. We have some pretty good candidates. The committee is setting up interviews as we speak. But we are always looking for additional candidates. So those of you who may know of anybody who's interested or you think may be a good fit as executive director of the BCA, please contact me, let me know, or have them send me a resume. I can forward it to the search committee. We want to get somebody pretty quickly, but we want to make sure it's the right person as well. So we're really excited about looking forward into that direction. Beginning the new year, hopefully we will have that executive director up and running, and then we are going to try to use the space that we have on US 1 a little bit more for artist residencies, book signings, book readings, gallery openings, things like that. So really excited about doing that. And we also formed a new committee to try to refocus what the BCA is going to be doing. So we have a large committee of our board members kind of rebranding, refocus what the mission is and how we can do a little more outreach and get out there more in the community. The board members that we have right now are great and are really stepping up and getting out there involved in the community with small businesses to help get the word out there about how much our cultural and arts organizations impacts the whole Space Coast. And the small businesses know that. And we're having really good support with the small businesses. So we got exciting things in the pipeline. And we're looking forward to it.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions for Mr. Peacock while we have him here? Okay, all right, thank you very much for your report, excellent.
Thank you all.
All right, so now we'll go on to the major event program. Bella.
Okay, if you want to take a look at the large Excel document that you have at your spot. As you know, there were 3 applications for this fiscal year 23-24. Project number 1, Thunder on Cocoa Beach, project number 2, Brevard Renaissance Fair, and project number 3, Space Coast State Fair. There are the judges' scores. 1 judge did not score. The total points of each project, the average, and then the trim mean, which is what we base the eligibility. You may recall the minimum type of points for this is 80 to be eligible. So all 3 are eligible for funding. And then the second to last column is the funding amount that they would be eligible for. So I will hand it over to you at this point. Just one other note, the blue shaded ones are the low and the high that were not included in the trimmed mean.
Would anyone like to make comments regarding the?
Can I first comment about the actual scoring process? I found it a little tricky. Maybe it was just me, but it was the same situation as we had the previous year with the cultural grants where the questions and the answers didn't quite line up, I didn't feel, or it was a little tricky going through the process and trying to match the scoring to the actual questions. So I think if we're going to do this again, we need to make sure that I don't know if anyone else had that same issue.
I'll speak frankly. I scored Thunder low, but the application talks about cultural, and there was no cultural in there. And I know we're funding events, but I think we need to relook at the guidelines and pull out some of that cultural stuff. Question 1 is what makes this event Space Coast a cultural destination?
Well, maybe this is a question for Peter and Lap after this is all done, but if I've read it correctly, going forward, they're going to roll sports into culture. I mean, that's what it sounds like. You know, the money, maybe I'm wrong, but if that's the case, I would think that the boats would be a sport and not in the culture.
I think Thunder's amazing, and the
Oh, yeah,
people they bring in are fantastic.
I scored
When
the
you
money, but I think
score against what the questions are, that's where I had a conflict.
Yeah, I just feel the application and the grading could be retooled, so it was much easier for the judges, and it would make more sense. I just found it was just very convoluted and a little all over the place.
I have a problem with that.
Well, you're
Yeah,
much smarter.
The other thing was that the numbers didn't jive, like you said, you know,
Yeah.
like, but I went back, but at least the verbiage was there, so I could say,
Yeah.
oh, that was for.
Right, I had to do a lot of back. Go back.
Yeah, I went back and
at
forth,
first.
so, yeah. The other question I have is, the highest amount of money that they can get is what?
So defined by the guidelines, right? The guidelines define 25, 50,
20%?
and 75,000, with no more than 20% of their budget. So,
Or 20% of their expenses or their entire budget?
their expense budget.
Their expense budget. So, okay, so if they, okay, so 20% of their expense budget, and what was the other thing you said? I'm sorry, I just missed it.
It was 25, 50, and 75 based on attendance. So I think it went from 25 to 49,999, 50 to 74,
Okay.
999, and then 75 plus.
Right. So one other question that I had was, you know, we've always talked about how we want to help cultural or events to get started. And once they don't need us, they're on their own, so to speak. That was kind of the intent of us, of giving out cultural grant monies. are we if we're considering this a cultural grant money, then that's how I'm speaking. Because if you looked at everything, you notice that Thunder on Cocoa Beach, they don't make any money. I mean, they're in the hole. They are in the hole about 15,000 a year, I guess, something like that, which comes out of their pocket. And it's nice that they pay it out of their pocket to do it, but they're in the hole 15. However, the state fair made $72,000 profit, and the Renaissance makes $332,000 in a profit. Looks like they all don't need our money. So I have a question about that.
Sound like the county commission.
But the thing about it is we automatically, when I say we, meaning the TDC would automatically promote these events anyway via the cultural activity calendar on their website or whatever. So why are we giving money for them to, I'd like to see the extra money go to Thunder on Cocoa Beach so they don't have to wait, they don't have to take money out of their pocket. But I just don't understand. Am I reading something wrong here, or are we happy to give them that money to include in their profit?
I had the same question on that. It's like I looked at the budget and went, how do you approve a negative budget? Are you not doing something wrong? Do you not have to live within your means and you're in the hole?
You're talking about Thunder.
Yeah.
Well,
Especially when you look at Thunder, look how much money it costs for them just to get the rights to have it. I mean, what is that? $75,000, $80,000, $75,000 just to have the right to have it here. So that's right off the top, they have to come up with 75, and it looks like right here that we can give them 50 is what, is the amount of money based on what we've done. I'm just curious because we always talk about how we want to help people. Well, we're more than helping two of those organizations. And then we always talk about the little guy in culture that never gets any money and, strives to do it. And here we have all this excess money and we're giving him money and the poor little guy gets nothing. I just want to bring it up for conversation if something that we need to talk about for next year or something, but I'm just amazed at $332,000 profit and $72,000 profit.
I think you made a very good point. Once they get up and running, say they get a grant, say 3 years or 4 years running, and they get a grant every year. And now they're up and running, and as you said, they really don't need our money. Do we want to have the same, should they be applying every year then just for that or not? Should there be any limit at all? Just because you're up and running doesn't mean that you don't qualify for a grant, because that's not in our guidelines at all.
And that's what I understand.
That would have to change completely. And I also wanted to bring your point up, Erin, is that I had the same issue with that. One of the questions that we had to score on, we didn't ask them that question on the application. And I wrote, you see my scores are the lowest again. So I couldn't give them a score. Now, had that particular question been the difference between qualifying or not, well, then I would have, tried to read it in there somehow. But I went back and I thought, well, maybe they answered the question in their narrative. So I went back and read that looking for an answer to it. And I think we asked them a question and we didn't ask them a question that we were then supposed to score on. So I think we need to work on that as well. In my case, it wouldn't have helped them if they had gotten full 10 points on that. But thank you for bringing that up as well. And also, I think when you're getting these amounts of money and we ask you for a detailed budget, it says in there detailed budget, and you just kind of give us a rundown that you're going to be spending so much out of county, this much out of county. I want a detailed budget. That's a lot of money. And the only place I saw anything that was detailed on that and the score shows was the Space Coast.
Did we ask them detailed budget or just budget?
It says detailed budget. And so where that money's going to go, I didn't see either of the other two applicants give us any other detail. It's very vague. And that's why I scored it so low, and that's my answer. On the other questions I gave them, whatever you could give them, it was 10 points. I gave them 10 points. They did an excellent job, except when it came to that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, are you talking about the marketing budget or the overall budget?
Well, either one. I mean, we should be able to see if there's going to be their marketing budget, and I would expect it would be if there's a timeline that goes with that, which I didn't see that either on, I saw it on one, didn't see it on the other. Where that advertising is going to be, what the timeline will be, and then an amount of it doesn't have to be the exact amount of money you're going to spend, because you may not know that at the time, but it is a detailed budget of how much it's going to print, advertising, billboards, that sort of thing. It gives us a breakdown, because that's what we're asking for, not just 100,000 to out of county advertising. That's not a detailed budget at all. But anyway, so those are my reasons why my.
Well, and I just want to say, I'm looking at like Thunder on the Beach. I mean, if you read, maybe it's not listed in their budget here of what they're doing it, but if you read their detail, you'll notice that they have a lot of in-kind that was given to them through like the radio or whatever. But then they also state how much they're going to spend on other things. So I just want to bring that up because it is there. It's not where you might think it should be. You know what I mean? Because it says marketing 138,000. Then you'd have to go back to and read this. So I had to do the same thing when I did the state fair and the Renaissance. And did the same thing, but a lot of it is definitely, it was here. So I just want to bring that up.
Okay, good, thank you.
I have a question, or did these, I can't pull up my computer, do they have to be nonprofit for this? No, okay, that's just the cultural grant, yeah.
Right. I'd also like to make a general comment. I think the quality of the applications for the most part is way below the previous applications that the smaller organizations put through. I mean, there's some of them just have 1 or 2 line answers. A lot of it was copied and pasted from previous application the year before. And I mean, that's just my opinion, that it was just, I feel like, you know, this amount of money, the application should be a bit more, you know, looked at and treated with a little bit more care from the applicant. A general overall thought on these applications.
I would
And that,
comment on that because I felt the presentations were more beneficial than the application.
I agree. I thought the presentations
right
were
there.
absolutely.
Because I loved the presentation.
Me too, but it wasn't conveyed. If we were scoring based solely on what was written, that's why my scores are on the lower side. You
Because
know,
I sat there going, we let the little guys come up here and present, that would be a whole different story as well.
right. So I just feel like, you know, it could have, maybe they could, you know, have someone go over their applications with them and make sure they're a bit more thorough in general.
Okay, any other comments?
I have one other question, I can't remember, I know when Thunder on Cocoa Beach and when the Renaissance Fair is, when is the state fair?
I think it just ended.
It just
Yeah.
ended.
So that's my question, are we still giving grants to an
Yeah.
event that already ended?
Yeah.
I mean, they're reimbursement grants, so we
Right.
certainly can.
Yeah.
I do wonder what will happen when it goes to the board and the board, you know, realizes that, but, you know,
Well, hopefully.
frankly, it was the board that sort of prolonged the process and sort of
Exactly.
delayed it, and so otherwise they would have been awarded already.
Prior to
Right.
it
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I get a motion in a second on accepting the scores and the grant amount that's written?
Are we gonna do them all together or?
Do you need them separate?
I don't know, I'm just, you know, I'm just not happy about this.
Have them separate or?
It's up to the committee, whatever they want to do, we could do them one at a time or all 3, whatever, the pleasure.
Okay, so can we get a motion and a second to accept all of the scores and all of the grant amounts as written? Written, sorry, motion by Rittenhour, second,
Here in a second.
second by Heron. All those in favor? Those opposed? Thank you, motion carries.
Madam Chair, may I just, the insert Jim question, in the melee that, happened, or whatever, you went a word, but the activity that happened, and we brought, the cultural support grant, and then subsequently the BCA contract, and all of those things got denied, and the move, from the motion was made and the carried for the funds out of the cultural grant program or the cultural fund should be moved to lifeguard. So 934,000 change was moved out of the cultural grant programs or the cultural programs, and moved to support lifeguards. Then the board asked our office to develop a new grant program that would be what Jim was sort of alluding to, which would be like a marketing reimbursement program. So we brought that to the board a couple of meetings ago. And then they decided to reinstate the cultural support grants and the BCA contract. And they did not take any action on the new grant program. So the new grant program is nowhere. It basically died. And now what we're left with is, with the $934,000 plus being pulled out of that account, we don't know if we're gonna have enough funds next fiscal year for 24-25 to do both major events, BCA contract, and cultural support grants, right? Because you need about $1 million, a little less, probably about $750,000, $800,000 for that. So we don't think we'll have that, because we had some carry forward that we were able to use, et cetera. So unless the board takes additional action, right now, we don't think we're gonna have, these programs for 24-25 unless something changes. So, just an FYI. So that's kind of where we're at, and kind of waiting to see what happens, and who comes into TDC, who comes on to the board as the new board chair. All of those things are kind of in flux right now.
I'm gonna ask one more question. Can I ask, and I'm sorry, Peter, I'm just trying to follow what you just said. So the money that will be collected for 23, 24, are we talking 24, 25?
24-25 is what I was alluding
Oh, okay.
to. Yeah.
So you're thinking that the money collected for 24, 25 is, I mean, cultural still gets their money, right? Or because they haven't changed anything yet, have they?
No,
Or-
well, so the board's action was in perpetuity. So they're basically, what they were saying was, the way the ordinance reads, it's up to X% can be used for cultural. So they're basically, we're saying, we're gonna take the money that was used for cultural, we're taking 934,000 of that, and we're gonna move it into lifeguards every year.
Right.
So if that's what happens, then there is no money for
Okay,
cultural.
so what you're saying is if they decide then in 24, 25 for that budget, they may take that 930 and put it into lifeguard.
I guess my point is, they
Yeah.
don't have to decide, they took the action, they have to decide to change their action.
The only thing that was changed was the idea was this for this year that they.
Right, it was a one-time.
Oh, okay, gotcha,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was only because we had carry forward funds that
Right.
were available.
Right.
And that would be the current board decision.
It would be,
If
yeah, and
Wasn't going to take no for an answer.
Yeah.
It worked.
might need to go back and revisit.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually, yeah, I know.
So they always had money for the lifeguards. It was always there.
Yes,
And they've had it for every year, and
yes.
they had a lot of people that drowned. Had a lot of people that drowned years and years ago too, so they've always had the money there. I never could understand, you gotta take this money.
Yeah, but-
Lifeguards, wait a minute, you always had the money there, planned for the money to be there, so.
And I have to,
Didn't understand.
I have to ask, is our delegation gonna take it and put it on their consent agenda for this year's session, legislative session? Lifeguards are not fundable. Except in one county. By state ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, that was a decision that was presented by the county attorney's office, so I don't know.
Yeah, he was wrong. So we've already taken the action to Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. It's on their agenda.
Okay.
And they'll be coming after Space Coast. Space Coast is not alone. There's about 3 or 4 different counties
That also deal with the same issue.
They're doing with the same.
And by the
thing.
way, the cultural issue was then also an issue around the state too. So several counties that do cultural grants got sort of, that money got removed as well, so.
Yeah, so it's, we're not the lone stranger. But on the other hand, it was interesting to see that the police foundation thing in Titusville got fully funded.
And I'm going to encourage you all to show up to support the city of Palm Bay in their seeking of additional funds for a tourism attraction of improving Sacrifice Park, also for law enforcement. So please, if you see that on the agenda and want to come and speak, we'd love your support.
That was worth it.
It was worth-
Okay, so,
Yeah.
public comment. Go on.
I just have one.
Yes, Deborah.
So committee, just very quickly, this is your last meeting for calendar year 2023. And as it is right now, this is it. So, there's no assumption that you'll be reappointed. So this is it. If you are reappointed for next year, we will let you know, and we will let you know the schedule and see you back here then.
We gotta have the money first, right?
Well, then there's that. So, yes.
It'd be a very quiet meeting if we don't have any budget.
But this question always seems to come up, and so I just want to make it very clear, this is the last committee meeting. And I just want to extend to you our thanks for working through all this very unusual cycle. Felt a little bit like Groundhog Day going back and forth, and I know it was challenging, so I appreciate all of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the popcorn.
And so maybe, since we don't know if we're gonna be reappointed or whatever, but maybe in the minutes that if the TDC can see that we're a little concerned that we need to talk about how much profit these people could make when it's going in somebody's pocket. That's our money going in somebody's pocket, and I have a real problem with that. And so I think John Tobias would have a problem with that if he saw how much money was there. He needs to be, like, I hope he reads it and sees that and says, hey, what are they doing? Anyway, just in case I'm not here to raise the flag or whatever, but, if it could just be noted so that.
So just one other note about this. So the process from here is, these recommendations will go to the TDC for, their vote, next Wednesday, November 15th. And then it is planning on going to the board on December 5th. Really effort.
So then really, at the TDC level, somebody at the TDC could say, wow, we got two people making a hefty profit. They could actually say that, couldn't they, if they wanted to? Okay. All right.
Thank you. Okay, we're public comment. Are there any members of the public? I don't have any cards. No one from the public wishes to speak? All right, so then since this committee no longer exists, we can speak to one another. There's no longer any sunshine. So we're done with that. So thank you, Deborah, for your popcorn. Thank you for your little.
Yes, thank you. That's
Thank
nice.
you.
Thank you as well. And
Yep, we just need a motion.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, motion by Ridenour, second by King. All right, we're finished. The motion, meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.